Hey guys, Tammy here. And in this video, I want to talk about the trauma bond. Now, again, a common term that's thrown around, but I think we don't always know what it means. What trauma bond actually means is having sympathy for your abuser. Now, the problem becomes, okay, let's say we figure out we have this going on. What the heck are we going to do to solve this problem? Let me quickly remind you, if you like these videos, please click like and also subscribe so you get notified as new videos are released. The problem with the trauma bond is that because we have these moments of sympathy, because we have these moments of weakness, and I'm not saying that you don't probably have some moments of anger, interspersed with that, because we have moments of that strength and moments of that confidence. But ultimately, in the trauma bond, we fall back into that sympathy mode. And the problem is when you're in that mode, you're allowing that pattern of abuse to continue. And if we're going to heal from this and totally get ourselves into a healthy, confident place, we cannot allow this abuse to continue. This is why that your boundaries and all those types of lines that you're drawing with the other person become so important. Because when you've been through this type of trauma, to think that you can continue to be exposed to this person, interact with this person, talk to this person, communicate about difficult things like co-parenting with this person and still heal at the same time, if you think about it in that context, it really doesn't make sense, right? How could you possibly heal when you're repeatedly exposed? One of the places that we hear the word trauma bond used, other than in these types of high conflict relationships, is around kidnappings. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever, heard this used in this context, but what happens is when you have a child that's kidnapped and they're with the captor for a long time, they will start to develop this sympathetic bond for their captor. Now, think about this. When the child is removed from that situation, when they're found, if they have to have repeated exposure and interaction with that kidnapper, they wouldn't be able to heal, right? It makes sense in that context when you think about it. And yet, we go through this process with our abusers from, these different types of high conflict relationships. And then we're wondering, why can't I heal? Why can't I move past this? Why can't I hit a point of indifference with this person? It's because of the repeated exposure. And this is the big challenge with co-parenting relationships, because you're co-parenting with the person. So yes, you have repeated exposure. The only way to get to the point to where you can heal from this, which takes time, is drawing those boundaries and creating that space for yourself over an extended period of time. And I mean 1 to 2 years, right? In the very beginning, you cannot sit down and be in the same space, have phone conversations, have emails back and forth, have messages back and forth, and try to coordinate and do all these things. I see a lot of parents that are like, oh yeah, we can go get dinner together. We can go do this together. We can go do that together. Well, let me ask you this. Were you in a relationship with a high conflict person, a narcissist, a borderline, somebody with those types of personality traits, antisocial personality disorder, all these different things? If you're thinking that you can go and have a normal, interaction with that person without any consequence to it, you're sadly mistaken. What that does is it re-triggers you, and it also puts you in situations where ultimately this person is going to do something that triggers you, right? Because let's think about it. Even in the relationship, when you were with them, it was probably cyclical. It's not like every day was a bad day. It wasn't, probably. Probably there were a lot of really good days. Thomas used to always say to me, when it's really good, it's good. But when it's really bad, it's bad. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking about his past relationships with people that had high conflict personalities. Not every day was a bad day, right? But it's cyclical. And so when you put yourself in this situation where you're having more interaction, or you're letting your guard down because things have been fine, you're opening up the doorway for that type of conflict to recur. And the other thing that you're doing is you're putting yourself in the same arena with that person, in close proximity with that person before you've completely healed. It would be like if we had a wound, let's say we broke our ankle, okay? Just to use, I'm having a little bit of an ankle issue right now, so I'm having a little ankle pain. That's the first thing that popped in my head. So let's say we broke our ankle, right? And let's say we were about half healed from the ankle injury, and we decided to go out and run for a mile on that half injured ankle. What's going to happen? Well, I think we all know what's going to happen. It's going to set us back in our recovery, right? We're going to be back to maybe not necessarily square one, but we're going to go backwards a whole lot from where we were, right? Because we were impatient and we didn't wait until that end point of complete recovery. And so you have to wait for that end point of complete recovery from this relationship, which normally takes a year or two, at least, at the minimum. You have to be in complete recovery from this relationship before you will be able to be in the same space with this person without being triggered. And I think that the only difference is it's not that you don't have the ability to be triggered from my experience. It's just that you kind of see it coming and you learn how to remove yourself from the situation because you don't get overly emotional, but you still see it coming. And so you're able to take that kind of deep breath and remove yourself from the situation before it escalates. But if you go in to that situation where you're having contact with that person prematurely before you've completely healed, you're going to set back your recovery. You guys, I've shared this before, but honestly, with my toxic relationship with my first husband, my ex-husband, it took me about 7 or 8 years. I'm about 16 to 17 years post-divorce now as I record this. And it took me, honestly, about 7 or 8 years to get to that point to where I could really, truly draw that boundary, have my safe space. I was fully healed from it. And I was able to be around him without being triggered. Now, listen, 8 years in, I was already married to Thomas. So I think a lot of times we have this illusion that because we're in a new relationship or because we've moved on romantically in some fashion, that we've healed from the relationship. That's not necessarily true. A lot of times we just carry that baggage into the next relationship with us. If you aren't doing the work on this and you're not working through the patterns of behavior and your emotions and understanding why you were with this kind of person and understanding how to draw those healthy boundaries, how to create that safe space for yourself, if you're not sure, you're not healed. If you are still in a mode where the messages upset you, that you feel that rush in your body, you know what I'm talking about, when that message comes through, or you're not able to contain your emotions when they push your buttons, those types of behaviors tell you that you are not healed and there is more work to be done. And a lot of it is around, I see a lot of people do the emotional work and work with therapists. But honestly, if you're not putting those practical things in place, if you're co-parenting especially, and you're not putting those practical things in place that allow that work that you're doing to take root and grow inside you, it's not going to work. You've got to create the foundation for that through your actions. The therapy is kind of the seeds of your new life, but the seeds of your new life cannot take root in the soil of your old life. And in order to turn that soil over and make sure it has nutrients and all the things that it needs to plant the new seeds of your life, you have to be able to draw that boundary and create that space and to create that that level of non-chaos. I don't know what the word is I'm trying to think of, but eliminating the chaos from the co-parenting relationship to create that foundation, to create that soil so that you can plant the seeds of your new life in that. What if I told you 2-3 years from now, you were going to be able to have this whole new life, this whole new situation where this person wouldn't be able to affect you in that way? What would that be worth to you? That you would be able to be happy, healthy, interact with your child, and have everything you love. That's the seeds of your new life. But we've got to create that foundation first. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services and how I can help you with building that foundation, go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. And there's a link on there where you can book a free strategy session with me. I would love to talk to you about your situation and find out how I might be able to support you on this journey to your new life. I'll see you next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.